Hello guys, welcome to my channel where stories filled with revenge, moral lessons, and love are told. Sit back and let me take you on a journey, and don't forget to like, share with your friends, and subscribe for more stories like this. When I first met Michael, it felt like fate had arranged the evening just for us. It was a charity gala at the city's cultural center, the kind of event where everyone dressed their best but kept their eyes sharp for who might be watching. I wasn't wealthy, not in the way some of those people were, but I'd been invited by a friend who worked for the organizers. I wore a simple navy dress and carried more nerves than confidence. And then there he was, tall, with kind eyes, a smile that carried both charm and patience. Michael Harrington. He introduced himself with an ease I could never imitate. He was warm, gentle, and when we talked, he didn't look past me the way so many men at those events did. He saw me. By the end of the night, he asked if I'd like to have dinner with him sometime, and I said yes without hesitation. That dinner turned into many, and within a year, we were inseparable. Our love wasn't flashy. We lived in a modest but comfortable house in the suburbs, a brick front home with a porch where Michael liked to read the paper on Saturday mornings. He worked in his family's logistics company, and I managed a boutique firm downtown. Life was steady, filled with shared dinners, late-night talks, and the ache of our one great struggle, children. We tried for years, hoping for news, for a chance, but it never came. There were doctors and procedures, prayers whispered at night, tears on my pillow when the tests came back negative. But Michael always held me close, always said, "It's you and me, Lillian. That's all I'll ever need." And in that love, I found peace. Still, not everyone shared Michael's acceptance. His sister Vivian made sure of that. From the very first moment she realized I couldn't give Michael a child, she turned cold. At family gatherings, she'd make sly comments about carrying the Harrington line and how some people were meant for more than others. She lived in a glass condominium downtown, climbing her way up the corporate ladder, hungry for status and respect. She seemed to resent that Michael and I were content with our quiet life, that we weren't driven by the same need to flaunt or compete. Michael brushed it off, always telling me to ignore her, but the sting never really faded. And when their father passed away, the tension deepened. Vivian was restless, determined to make the family company her empire. Michael stayed involved but distant, often sighing at her manipulations. "She wants control more than she wants family," he told me once. "But I won't let her poison everything." As the years passed, I noticed Michael becoming more secretive. He'd come home late some nights, his suit rumpled, his expression heavy. When I asked, he would say, "Just family business, nothing you need to worry about." I tried to believe him, tried to trust, but there were times I'd see his hands trembling, as if he were carrying more than he dared share. Still, he never stopped being my husband, my anchor, my everything. And then, just like that, my world broke apart. It was a Friday evening when Michael collapsed. He had been standing in the kitchen, reaching for a glass of water, when he suddenly gripped his chest. I rushed to him, my screams echoing through the walls, calling 911 with shaking fingers. They worked on him, but the doctors later said it was a massive heart attack. He was gone before I even had a chance to whisper goodbye. The days that followed blurred into a haze of black clothes, endless condolences, and the suffocating silence of our home. I buried my husband on a gray morning when the sky seemed to weep with me. My heart felt hollow, like a bell rung too hard, the sound of grief vibrating through every part of me. I thought the funeral would mark the beginning of my healing, but instead, it became the start of my nightmare. Vivian showed up at the service in a tailored black dress, her face composed, her eyes sharp. She barely hugged me, barely whispered a word of comfort. And then, 2 days later, she came to my house. I was sitting on the couch, holding one of Michael's sweaters, when she walked in uninvited, dragging 2 suitcases behind her. "Lillian," she said coldly, "this house isn't yours anymore. It belongs to the family trust. Since Michael died without children, it reverts to us." I blinked at her, unable to comprehend. "What are you talking about? This is my home. Michael and I built our life here." Her lips curled in something that wasn't quite a smile. "You were just borrowing it. Father's will is very clear. Without heirs, the house reverts. You can pack your things or stay, but either way, I'm moving in." Before I could stop her, she began moving around the house as if it were hers, opening cabinets, inspecting rooms, even calling movers within the week. Soon enough, she was selling off Michael's belongings, our furniture, even the painting he gave me on our 5th anniversary. I protested. I screamed, but she was relentless. Neighbors whispered, friends grew distant, and I felt myself shrinking, suffocated by her cruelty. At night, I lay awake listening to her footsteps echo down the hall, her voice on the phone as she laughed about cleaning house. She even spread rumors that I had drained Michael's money, that I was nothing more than a gold digger who couldn't give him what he needed. I was grieving, broken, and now stripped of the life I'd known. But even as I lay there, drowning in despair, something inside me refused to die. I remembered Michael's words, his secretive glances, his long nights at the office. Somewhere, deep down, I knew he had left me more than just memories. He had left me answers, and I promised myself I would find them. When Vivian finally forced me out of the house, I felt like a ghost drifting through the city. The place I had called home was no longer mine. The photographs were stripped from the walls, the scent of Michael's cologne erased by her perfume. She had moved us tossed my boxes onto the curb as though my entire life were just clutter to be discarded. With nowhere else to go, I rented a small, drafty apartment above a laundromat in a worn-out neighborhood where no one knew my name. The walls smelled of detergent and mildew, the pipes rattled at night, and every corner felt temporary. At first, I thought I would break under the weight of it all. Each morning, I woke up expecting to hear Michael's voice calling from the kitchen, only to remember he was gone. Each evening, I came home from work with my heart sinking at the silence waiting for me. Vivian, meanwhile, flourished in her new role as lady of the Harrington house. Word spread quickly that she had redecorated, thrown lavish gatherings, and paraded around in the very jewels Michael once gifted me. People whispered that I had been pushed out for mismanaging money, that I had never really belonged to the Harrington family. It was humiliating, but it was also a strange kind of freedom. With nothing left to lose, I could think clearly, and in that clarity, I began to wonder why Michael had been so secretive before his death. He was a man who always planned ahead, who tied every loose end. Would he really have left me unprotected, at Vivian's mercy? The question gnawed at me day and night. One evening, as I sorted through the last of the boxes Vivian had allowed me to take, I found something tucked inside Michael's old leather briefcase. It was slim and black, hidden in a false lining. My breath caught when I pulled it out. A USB drive. I stayed at it for a long time before plugging it into my laptop. My hands trembled as the screen filled with files, dozens of folders meticulously labeled, spreadsheets, scanned documents, even audio recordings. The further I looked, the colder my blood ran. Vivian's name appeared again and again. Michael had uncovered everything. For nearly a decade, Vivian had been siphoning money from the family company, moving funds through shell accounts, disguising them as consulting fees and project budgets. The sums were staggering millions funneled away into private accounts. But that wasn't all. There was a recording, grainy but clear enough to recognize her voice. "Michael, you don't want to do this," Vivian hissed. "If you expose me, I'll ruin you. I'll make sure Lillian is left with nothing." Michael's reply was calm, steady, filled with that quiet strength I loved. "It isn't about you anymore, Vivian. It's about integrity. I won't let you destroy the company, or this family." The recording ended with her sharp laugh, one I knew too well. My stomach turned. Vivian hadn't just resented me, she had threatened Michael's life. And now he was dead. My grief twisted into something else. Fury. The more I explored the drive, the more pieces fell into place. Michael had been preparing to expose her, compiling evidence so thorough it could withstand any scrutiny. And then, not long after he organized these files, he was gone. But there was another surprise that made me clutch my chest and weep. Michael had updated his will just weeks before his death. He left everything to me. The house, his accounts, even a trust fund designed to protect me if anything happened. None of it, not a single coin, belonged to Vivian. The will was encrypted in a scanned document, signed and dated, waiting for me to find it. Vivian must have known, which explained her desperation, her lies about the family trust, her attempt to throw me out before I could discover the truth. I sat there for hours, staring at the screen, torn between sorrow and rage. Michael had tried to shield me, even in his final days, and I had almost let his work go to waste. I thought of Vivian lounging in my house, bragging to anyone who would listen, mocking me as though I were nothing. She believed she had won, but she had underestimated me. I took the USB drive and the will straight to an attorney the next morning. His eyes widened as he scrolled through the files, his brows lifting higher with each new discovery. "This," he said slowly, "isn't just enough to contest her claims. This is enough to bury her. Do you understand, Mrs. Harrington? This is fraud, embezzlement, corporate theft. She won't just lose the house, she could go to prison." For the first time in months, I felt power stirring inside me. Not hope power. I wasn't just Michael's grieving widow anymore. I was his voice, his justice, the vessel of everything he tried to protect. In the days that followed, I moved carefully. I didn't confront Vivian right away. I let her believe I was defeated, broken, hiding away in my shabby apartment. Meanwhile, I worked with the attorney to organize the files, prepare a legal case, and contact the company board. Each meeting revealed more allies. Michael's mother, Ruth, who had always treated me with kindness, and several senior managers who had long suspected financial irregularities but lacked proof. When I finally reached out to Ruth, she took my hands in hers and whispered, "I knew my son would never leave you with nothing. I will stand by you, Lillian, whatever you need." Her loyalty broke me into tears, but it also strengthened my resolve. Vivian had taken my house, my belongings, my dignity. She thought she had silenced me, but the truth was louder than her lies, and I carried it in my hands. Every night, I rehearsed what I would say when the moment came. I imagined the look on her face when the evidence was laid before her. I pictured her arrogance crumbling, her smirk fading, her empire collapsing around her. The thought hasn't brought me joy, not yet. It brought me clarity. This wasn't just revenge. This was justice. For Michael. For me. For every lie she had spun to bury us. And soon, very soon, Vivian would learn that she had picked the wrong widow to destroy. The court date was set on a brisk autumn morning, the kind of day when the air smelled sharp with the promise of change. I walked into the courthouse with Ruth by my side and the USB drive clutched inside my handbag. My heart thundered in my chest, but I lifted my chin high. This was the day Michael's truth would finally see the light. Vivian arrived like she owned the very walls around us. She wore a tailored gray suit, her hair sleek and perfectly styled, her lips painted with that same shade of confidence she had wielded against me since the first day I joined her family. When her eyes found mine across the room, she smiled, a silent reminder that she still believed she held power. But the arrogance in her expression only steeled me further. The judge called us to order, and her lawyers began their show, painting me as an interloper, a widow who wanted to grasp at wealth that wasn't hers. They waved around papers they claimed proved the house belonged to the family trust. They sneered when they spoke my name, as if I was some insignificant shadow. Vivian leaned back in her seat, enjoying the performance, as though my humiliation were inevitable. And then it was my turn. My attorney stood, his voice calm, his words precise. He placed Michael's updated will on the table for the court to see. Signed. Dated. Verified. He explained that Michael had left everything to me. Not a shred of doubt remained about his intentions. The courtroom shifted with murmurs, and I watched Vivian's smirk falter just slightly. But the real blow came when the USB drive was introduced into evidence. The judge leaned forward as the spreadsheets were projected, line after line of misappropriated funds linked to Vivian's name. Then came the recordings. The room fell into an almost reverent silence as Michael's voice filled the air. Vivian, you don't want to do this. If you expose me, I'll ruin you. I'll make sure Lillian is left with nothing. There it was, her voice like a knife in the quiet courtroom. A few jurors glanced at her in shock, some with outright disgust. I held my breath, waiting, and when the recording ended, Vivian's face had gone pale, her lips pressed into a hard line. Her lawyer scrambled, but it was useless. The board of the company, already notified of the evidence, confirmed the irregularities. Investigators were prepared to open a full criminal case. By the time the hearing concluded, the judge ruled firmly in my favor. The house was mine, the will stood uncontested, and the matter of embezzlement would be referred to federal authorities. I didn't smile when the ruling was read. I didn't even glance at Vivian. I simply closed my eyes, inhaled deeply, and felt Michael's presence beside me. Justice wasn't sweet, it was steady, grounding, a restoration of balance that had been stolen from us. Vivian was arrested 3 weeks later. I read the headlines in the paper as I sat at the very kitchen table she had once mocked me at. Corporate heiress faces 15 years for fraud and embezzlement. Cameras caught her being led away in handcuffs, her once perfect image shattered for all to see. She tried to shield her face, but there was no hiding from the truth. When I walked back into my home after the court returned it to me, I barely recognized it. Vivian had redecorated in cold steel and glass, as though she wanted to erase every trace of warmth Michael and I had created. But slowly, piece by piece, I restored it. I painted the walls back to soft colors, rehung the photograph she had taken down, and placed Michael's favorite armchair by the window again. The house breathed with life once more, and in its quiet corners, I felt him close. But I didn't stop there. I knew grief could swallow me whole if I let it. So instead, I poured my pain into purpose. With the funds Michael left behind, I established the Michael Harrington Foundation, an organization dedicated to supporting widows blindsided by loss and betrayal. We offered legal aid, counseling, and financial planning, everything I had once wished for in my darkest hours. At our first event, as I stood on stage speaking to a room full of women who had known grief like mine, I felt a sense of belonging I hadn't known since Michael's passing. I told them about love, about betrayal, about the strength that rises when you believe you've been broken beyond repair. And when I looked into their eyes, shining with tears and fire, I knew Michael's legacy lived on not in A's, but in the lives we touched. Sometimes, at night, I still hear his voice in the silence of the house. I imagine him reading on the porch, humming as he brewed coffee, laughing when I teased him about his terrible handwriting. Those memories no longer pierce me with unbearable grief. They steady me, reminding me of the man who trusted me to carry his truth. Vivian thought she had won the moment she tossed my boxes onto the curb. She thought power and cruelty could erase love and integrity. But she was wrong. Michael's faith in me, his quiet preparation, became the saw that cut through her lies. She underestimated me. She underestimated us. And as I sit here today, in the home I reclaimed, watching the foundation grow and knowing Vivian will spend years behind prison walls, I finally understand what justice means. It's not revenge born of spite. It's the restoration of dignity, the honoring of a love too strong to be buried. Michael may be gone, but in every step I take forward, he walks beside me. Together, even in his absence, we triumphed. Moral lesson. Life has a way of testing the strength of our souls when we least expect it. My journey through grief, betrayal, and the long road to justice taught me that pain does not have to end in silence. It can be reshaped into power, into purpose, into something that not only restores us but also uplifts others. For anyone listening, remember this. No cruelty lasts forever, no lie can bury the truth forever, and no betrayal can erase the love of those who truly cherished you. We all carry the strength to rise, even when the world thinks we are broken. Sometimes, all it takes is one step, one choice, one act of courage to reclaim your life. So, if you've ever felt discarded, underestimated, or erased, let my story remind you that you are stronger than the storms around you. Hold on to the truth, and let justice, whether quiet or thunderous, find its way. Thank you for listening to my story. Please don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to this channel for more powerful tales of love, betrayal, and redemption. And in the comments, tell me what lesson stood out to you most.